that leaves us in a really challenging and unprecedented position about how we exercise our rights as citizens.
And I want everyone listening to understand that when we talk about the shadow docket, the emergency docket, these are cases of criticality in which there has been no oral argument before the court usually. They're ruling on, not really even ruling on the papers. They're issuing decisions that have no explanation. There's no decision that's written saying why they decided what they did, what were the grounds for it, how did they apply it in this factual situation, what does it mean for other cases of like nature. Nothing. It's just this random, affirmance usually of some outrageous Trump administration behavior. Tell me, Alex, tell our audience nationwide and globally, what should people do about this court? Because it's not just all out of our hands. We're not just totally powerless here. What do we do to make sure that that our Supreme Court is working in the interests of our whole nation?
Well, they should start, of course, by going to the rally tomorrow outside the court.
That's right.
That's low-hanging fruit for anyone within 250 miles.
There you go. There you go.
No, I mean, I think it comes down to engaging in our political process with the very intentional understanding that our courts and our judges and the justices on the Supreme Court in particular are very much actors in that political process that respond in many of the same ways that other political actors respond. And we also need to be much more demanding of our elected representatives to stand up for us in defending our rights and freedoms against the assault of these judges. I think this is one of the biggest challenges, one of the biggest reasons why we're here, is that over the course of these decades, as the Roberts Court project has unfurled itself, right, as they've advanced their political and ideological agenda and clamped down the levers of democratic pushback through these rulings on money in politics and voter suppression and gerrymandering, we haven't done anything to push back because we've just taken it as kind of like the way it has to be, that these justices get the final say on what the Constitution means. That hasn't worked out for us. It didn't work out when the Tanya court was allowing Southern slave owners to chase after their fugitive slaves in the Dred Scott ruling. And we have to recognize the power we have to organize and confront a captured and weaponized judicial branch, just as we would any other political threat.
Wow. We have, I don't know how long you can stay with us, but we have been joined by some of our other guests, and we are so appreciative that you have helped us open this session today. We have joining us Tanya Callais. Tanya Callais is just an amazing leader in our country. She is the chair of the National Bar Association's Civil Rights Section. She is a consultant on many major civil rights matters, and she has not only worked at the Lawyers Committee, where we have the pleasure of working together, but she's worked in the Obama administration as one of the deputy undersecretaries at the Department of Education, and she is a constant, consultant to many of us about how to do our best strategies in this confronting this Trump administration, and including working closely with Dr. Kimberly Crenshaw. Welcome, Tanya.
Well, thank you. As we always say, we all love to be introduced by Barbara Arnwine. So thank you so much, Barbara.
Well, the truth is always easy. And I believe, Daryl, that we've been joined by Reverend Daryl Gray. Do you want to introduce Reverend Gray?
You mean after Tanya talks about wanting everybody to be introduced by you?
I know.
We love you too, Daryl.
I'm chopped liver.
Well, Reverend Daryl Gray is with us, and we're so excited and pleased to have him. He's the founding pastor and pastor emeritus of the Amani family and Full Gospel Church. Now, he resigned there in December 2018, but he's arguably the most media sought out, most quoted Black person in Montreal, Canada, and throughout of all Canada. He was elected to the Kansas State Senate at the age of 26, was the only Black state senator in Kansas at that time, and one of the youngest state senators in the state of Kansas. He is also the National Director of Communications of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference in Atlanta, Georgia. He's worked for decades in promoting human and civil rights and human dignity. Folks, we could go on and on and on. I can tell you that Reverend Daryl Gray is one bad brother. Reverend Gray, welcome back to Igniting Change.
Well, thank you so much, Daryl. And listen, Barbara did a fantastic interview of your other guests. I think yours was equally fantastic, although you read most of it. But, anyway, it's still good. I wanted to, if you don't mind, I wanted to add, and I currently serve, I am located in the U.S. now. I've lived 20 years in Canada, but I'm American-Canadian. But I live in St. Louis now. I pastor a church here, and I proudly serve as the Director General for Social Justice for the Progressive National Baptist Convention, the denominational home of the late Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King. And so, Daryl, thank you so much. Daryl spells his name with one R, and I spell my name with two, and we've gotten past it, Dr. Barbara. We've gotten past it.
Well, one thing that I wanted to do is, Alex, what's so beautiful about Tanya and what's so beautiful about Reverend Gray is that they exemplify what you're talking about citizen action around this court. Tanya, you had a major meeting yesterday of the NBA Civil Rights Section, and I was taken by how solemn and how serious that conversation was, especially when we talked about Callais. And, and I wanted you to just tell people, as you met the section, how did you interpret their reaction to the fact that so much is at stake in this case?
Well, first, thank you again. Thank you for joining the call yesterday. You have been a longtime member of the Civil Rights Law section at the MBA, and really appreciate all of the expertise you bring to it. And you're right. It was, I think it was, to be honest, a bit shocking, and
right,
for most of those on the call. And the reason, this is the reason why I've chaired this section for so long, and because it's my goal and desire to make sure that I'm educating as best as possible, our Black attorneys and judges and law students and those in the field, particularly those who are not regularly engaged in these issues in their daily lives. And so while I think many have been aware on some level of, the attacks that we're confronting across our entire civil rights infrastructure, that I don't believe that the familiarity with what really is at stake with Callais was understood. And that was exactly one of the reasons why I called the urgent meeting, because I said, I called it within 3 days. I said, look, there's a lot of stuff happening, y'all. So we need to make sure everybody's aware. And so, yeah, I think it was definitely shocking. I got a lot of, I got emails and comments afterwards, thanking so much for the information, and just expressing alarm and concern because, grateful that they have it now, because they just didn't know. They didn't realize how much was at stake. And so And that, I think, is indicative also of just everyday Americans maybe not being fully aware of the intersections of these issues in their daily lives.
Thank you.
Wow. And that's a great point that Tanya brings up, Reverend Gray, is the importance of everyday people understanding what's going on. Because, it's one thing to know, when someone's coming at you and you're being attacked. It's another thing to turn around, open your eyes, and you're bleeding out because you don't even know you've been attacked. So one of the things that you've done and that you did this past Sunday is that you convened many ministers to get together and encouraging them to learn about this attack on the Voting Rights Act and to take it back to their parishioners to talk about it, to educate them. Can you share with our audience, why you thought it was necessary to do that and what your hope was for members of the ministry, members of the clergy in this regard and dealing with this Callais case? I call it an inside-out strategy, right? You're not inside the courtroom, but you're outside the courtroom applying the pressure. So, Reverend Gray, what were your thoughts on that? What were you attempting to do, and do you believe you achieved it?
Well, I believe we did, and I want to thank you and Dr. Arnwine for being on that call to help clergy understand the issue in layman's terms so that we can communicate it to our congregants. Everyone on this call knows that the Black Church has historically been a central institute in the fight for voting rights and democracy, and it continues that work today through voter mobilization, through advocacy against suppression. We've historically provided space for organizing, educating, motivating Black communities to engage in civic action. And so it was important for us this week, looking towards tomorrow and the Supreme Court hearing tomorrow and the challenges that we're going to make against, and I say we, all of us are in this together, that we as a country should be making against gerrymandering and redistricting around this country, particularly since we know it is directed to dilute Black and brown voting strengths. We had people from all facets of the religious community, faith community. We had Progressive Baptists, National Baptists, AME Zion, AME, CME, Church of God in Christ, United Methodists. We wanted to make sure that all of the social justice directors of all of these denominations were on the same page, that we were hearing the same thing from experts like you and Dr. Arnwine and others. We had Congressman Cleo Fields on the call so that we could hear what was really going on. And you broke it down in such a way that it makes it extremely easy for clergy to be able to communicate it over their pulpits, communicate it through their Bible studies, communicate it through our various clergy meetings, our weekly meetings, our monthly meetings. And so it was vitally important. I mean, there's no doubt when we look at how we've gotten to where we are right now, the whole idea of the Voting Rights Act, the Civil Rights Movement, the church, we wanted to remind clergy who are involved and engaged in social justice why we were created in the first place, why the Black church exists in the first place. We understand the spiritual part, but there are other parts. And so when you look at the Civil Rights Act, when you look at the Voting Rights Act, when you look at that movement, leaders like Dr. King, people like Fannie Lou Hamer, and so many others really helped us to understand that we frame voting as essential to achieving racial justice. And so it was important for us to meet so that we could get our marching orders from you and Dr. Arnwine and Congressman Fields and others so that we can take this message back down into the valley.
All right now. And Alex, are you still there?
I am.
Oh, so as you hear what Tanya has done, and as you with the leader and her leadership role, and by the way, the president of the National Bar attended this meeting. and was. Oh yes, I mean as busy as she is with all of those demands.
And Congressman Bobby Scott joined to give
Yes, and Congressman Bobby Scott came. I mean, that just shows